meeting to order. At this time, we will take a motion on the approval of the agenda, and before that, Mr. Pope, you had a recommendation or a change?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, council and citizens of Fairfield. The one change is in addition to the item number 16, the executive session. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the council to consider adding an item to receive an update on a potential economic development project in Fairfield County as information.
Okay. Can I get a motion with that amendment?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By the same sign. I have an invocation by Ms. Kenley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As all of you know, today is Veterans Day. I would like to ask all the veterans just to stand, please. If you would, if you served in any of the armed forces, would you please stand for us? Are any of you gentlemen a POW from the Vietnam War? No. Did you? Okay. Let's give them a hand. We wouldn't. This past May was the 40th anniversary of the release of all the POW prisoners from Vietnam. And yesterday in our church we recognized that fact, and we had one of the POWs in our congregation. And we just don't know sometimes the torture they say these gentlemen and ladies have gone through to preserve the freedom of this country. And I just thank each one of you, because we, like I pray many times, thank the Lord for the freedoms we have to be able to meet in our country and to have the freedoms that we have. Ms. Terry Vickers gave me a poem and asked me to read tonight. If you will bear with me, I'm going to read this poem. And it's called Error, File Name Not Specified. If it weren't for the United States military, there would be no United States of America. The Final Inspection is the name of the poem. The soldier stood and faced God, which must always come to pass. He hoped his shoes were shining just as brightly as his brass. Step forward now, soldier. How shall I deal with you? Have you always turned the other cheek? To my church have you been true? The soldier squared his shoulders and said, No, Lord, I guess I ain't, because those of us who carry guns can't always be a saint. I've had to work most Sundays, and at times my talk was tough. And sometimes I've been violent because the world is awfully rough. But I never took a penny that wasn't mine to keep, though I worked a lot of overtime when the bills just got too steep. And I never passed a cry for help, though at times I shook with fear. And sometimes, God, forgive me, I wept unmanly tears. I know I don't deserve a place among the people here. They never wanted me around except to claim their fears. If you've a place for me here, Lord, it needn't be so grand. I never expected or had too much, but if you don't, I'll understand. There was silence all around the throne where the saints had often trod, as the soldier waited quietly for the judgment of his God. Step forward now, you soldier. You've borne your burdens well. Walk peacefully on heaven's streets. You've done your time in hell. Author unknown. Now would you let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we do come to you tonight in complete honesty that we appreciate everything you do for us. And we thank you for each one of these gentlemen that stood, that have fought in the wars to have freedoms in this country. We ask that you do a special blessing to them and their families for what they have gone through. And I ask that each one of us be loyal enough to thank them for what they have done for us. I ask that you bless every family that is represented in this room tonight. And again, I thank you for the many, many blessings that you have given to so many of us. We thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. I ask that you continue, please, giving those to us. We do not deserve your love and your friendship, but we are so glad that you claim us as your children. Be with us in our meeting tonight. Let us have good communications, and let us do the best thing we can for Fairfield County citizens. All these things I ask in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
We're now down to item 4, approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to address something about those minutes.
Okay.
The last time I voted was in the newspaper. I voted against 2 things, and I think I was misquoted on one. I think I asked a question of the new site that Mr. Terry Vickers was talking about. And I asked a question of who was in charge, who's leading that initiative. And Ms. Vickers replied to that. It was my understanding with Christ Central involved, the Chamber involved, the CDC. I'm just saying what was my understanding. I ain't saying what's right here. Shaking heads, I'm not finished yet. And one other, I thought it was Blair College, I'm not sure. And I asked that question, and Miss Vicky answered that question for me. And I voted for that. I didn't vote against it. I'm down as voting against it. I did not. I voted against Lang Mecra, and the second one was the millage that we talked about. Those were the 2 things I voted against, and I wish that to be corrected, Mr. Chairman.
Tell you what, the recommendation of the chair, let's, Ms. Brown, if you'll research that, listen to the tape and go back and make those corrections, and then we'll bring, what meeting was that?
I think it was on the 28th, I think.
28th?
The last, yes.
Okay. Let's accept the minutes of October 16th. Who made that motion? Did you make it, Ms. Rocky? Is that amenable with you?
As amended.
Okay, and Ms. Mary Linda, second, okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by the same sign. We will deal with the October 28th minutes in the next regular session. Okay, we're now down to public comment. Ms. Brown, if you will read the first name.
Mr. Bob Harrison on the subject of pledge.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. With council's permission, I would like to ask those gathered here in observance of Veterans Day, stand, and if you're able, and join me with the proper salute and saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Ms. Irene Maddox on the subject of general matter. Ms. Irene, you haven't been here in quite a while, so I'm going to be using this timer. When the 3 minutes is up, it will sound.
I don't have a written speech. I want to look at county council in the face and tell them how, I don't know how disappointed I am. That I grew up here in Fairfield County 73 years, and I have never in my life seen anything like what's going on now. I think about my grandchildren and what they've got to live through. If y'all have got a conscience, you will not be doing what you're doing. And Mary Lynn, you have a beautiful voice and a good prayer, but I don't think you worship the same God I do. Because my God says don't steal, don't lie, don't cheat. And look what's going on in Fairfield County. That's sad. And it hurts me. It hurts me to know that I'm living in a place like this now, and I got grandchildren coming on with people that don't care. And David, when you started your first time, I was there to help you at the Greenbrier Fire Department. What have you done for me? I mean, none of you. I don't understand anything about I got to be in this district and the one across the road got to be somewhere else. No, y'all have hurt me very bad. And I want to thank the people that's come into this county that's trying to do something, because so many of the people don't. Thank you. And rest.
Ms. Beth Jenkins on the subject of Hilton Head reimbursement.
I think before we start the timer, Mr. Ferguson, I believe that I would like to use 5 minutes. You were incorrect and shut me down. I was going by the bylaws as they were on the records.
3 minutes.
Keep talking.
I was following your law that you signed. It is not my fault, I don't feel, if you did not read what you signed and executed. I am asking for 5 minutes according to the law.
3 minutes.
Right now, what's being passed out to each and every one of the council members is for the overage for the conferences for the past 5 years. The conferences are 4-day stays. You have gone Saturday to Saturday and stayed extra days. I have calculated, and most of the people in the audience, I gave them handouts so that they know how much you have taken advantage of us. I think that you should make your checks payable to Fairfield County. I did a FOIA. I had 3 inches worth of paperwork that I have gone through. Yes, I did turn this into the Ethics Commission. Yes, fact, I have contacted the IRS and filled out a form on each and every one of you. Yes, I have contacted, this is fact, the FBI for a small county corruption. I think that you people should be ashamed of yourself, each and every one of you. We do not owe you extra days of vacation on county money. Please send your checks. And by the way, if you need copies of what you did, I'm sure they will charge you the 30 cents a piece per paper that I had to pay. You should all, each and every one, be ashamed. And please, no one resign. I want to see you sit there and squirm, Mr. Ferguson, as you pay every dollar you owe this county back.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeff Schaefer, on the subject of free speech.
Free speech. I'll take the rest of that time. Good evening, everybody. Call the police now because they're going to have to pull me off. Okay. I requested 10 minutes to speak. Can you all hear me? I'm going to talk to you. I requested 10 minutes to speak tonight, and I'm going to take it because Mr. Ferguson had no problem allowing me the full 10 minutes, provided he was approving what I was going to speak about. At first I thought he was kidding, but no, he's serious. I am too. I passed around a copy. I showed you what happened. I'll read it because it's beyond my understanding. Let me suggest that Mr. Ferguson and the rest of you start reading the South Carolina Handbook for County Government. Specifically page 44, chapter 5. Principles of Public Service and Ethics. And I quote, "Public servants should treat their office as a public trust, only using the power of resources of public office to advance public interests, and not to attain personal benefits or pursue any other private interest incompatible with the good of the public." Not to mention, it goes on to comment specifically to moral obligations and formal codes of conduct. And on the same page, I found the reference relative to my comments under the heading, Principle of Accountability. Public servants should assure that government is conducted openly, effectively, equitably, and honorably in a manner that permits the citizenry to make informed judgments and hold government officials accountable, not the other way around. I am not accountable to the council for my words or actions. I will let my words and free thoughts speak for themselves. It appears to me, Mr. Ferguson, that your authority has been influenced by the power bestowed to the chairperson. Unfortunately, it appears it's also guided by your ego. They say power attracts the worst and corrupts the best, and humility and integrity separates the best from the worst. You asked me to tell you exactly what I was going to say, and I needed your approval. I need your permission to speak. The Constitution of the United States gives me that right to speak, so listen carefully. I'll speak slowly. This nauseating Yankee accent will really irritate you. And I suppose you're under the impression that I would back off and not speak if you delayed me long enough. Nice try, but that seems to have backfired on you. As you can see, I'm here and I'm not backing off. I'm expressing myself right now with the truth. And we don't hear that at every meeting, I can assure you. Today's Veterans Day. I'm a veteran. I serve my country. Some things are just worth fighting for. Freedom of speech is one of them. And this man's arrogant rants and authoritarian dictatorship is not going to work for me.
I'm not a student in his classroom. Mr. Pope has asked the citizens to show respect and decorum. That's nice. I believe in that. What goes around comes around as well. I was born and raised in the South, in a place where only hospitality is among the people. You keep listening.
Time is up.
Yep. And trust is gained by your actions and deeds, and respect is earned. That place is the South Bronx. Talk is cheap, and that's what you folks seem to throw around. Cheap talk. Nothing of significance. Not one word.
We need you to step out, okay?
Leave him alone.
Give me one more minute.
not violating
We need
any
you
law.
to in decency and in order, okay?
Ferguson's afraid of the
We
truth.
need you to step down.
Yeah, well. Come on, guys, get me.
Mr. Kevin Thomas, on the subject of reimbursement.
Just in the middle.
What a circus. Jail bird.
All right, mine's a little different today. Good morning, council, everybody, how are y'all? Before I start, Ms. Kelly, that was very nice about your comments about veterans, so sincerity, thank you very much. As a veteran and member of the South Carolina Air National Guard, I appreciate that. Council, thank you. Don't look for any sarcasm, it's not coming. I understand you're in the process of changing your reimbursement policy. That's something that's needed to be done. A lot of us has stood up here and asked for that. I think, Mr. Pope, I think you recommended that. So when you do things that we ask you to do, we're not going to come up here and berate you on that. There's some things we want you to do, that's one of them, and you've done that. So sincerely, thank you very much. And there's nothing, I mean that sincerely. Now you've got a policy just like everybody else, and I do every month when I submit my expense report. You have expenses, you submit the receipts, and you get reimbursed accordingly, and that's good. Some changes, a few changes we'd like you to make. Your bylaws, I guess you're in the process of changing some of those. We would like you to add an attendance policy to that. I read Mr. Trapp's policy, or basically saying anybody in his council, everybody in his district are okay with him meeting or missing meetings. But you know what? He still works for all of us, not just the district. And is anybody here happy with Mr. Trapp's attendance policy? No. Okay, so we think asked you to consider doing that. Maybe if you miss 4 in a row. Obviously, if you have a health issue, that's a totally different thing, Mr. Brown. And we made sure to mention that because that is a legitimate thing. And you're going to add more public comment at the end, from what I understand as well. And that's a good thing. So if anything is discussed in there, we can readdress at the end. So we appreciate that. Hopefully y'all will enact that as well. One thing I understand you may be changing is you're going to prohibit passing your 3-minute mic time to somebody else. Really, I don't think you should do that. I think that should be the same. So we'd ask you to not make that change and prevent people from passing that on. So again, when you make changes that we're asking you to do, we appreciate it. We'll tell you thank you. Thank you very much.
Jeff.
You didn't go.
He went to all the conferences.
Mr. Mike Ward, on the subject of integrity.
Good evening. Thank you for that pledge. I appreciate it. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, integrity, the firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values of incorruptibility. Bottom line, integrity demands fairness. My formative adult years were spent in the United States Navy submarine force, where integrity is not only required, it is necessary. Lack of it causes you to be dismissed immediately. When I come to public meetings of elected people, I not only expect but demand the integrity of those elected officials. At these meetings over the past several months, board members ask for respect, insist concerned citizens observe a 3-minute rule, which was just brought up here recently, and you had the audacity to send a police officer up. But you have no problem taking 10 or 15 minutes to ramble on aimlessly and say nothing, and do it consistently. Very recently it was announced that a certain board reimbursement expenses are being reduced, but that does not whitewash the fact for years you have accepted a $795 a month expense that is almost $70,000 a year in total. Times how many years have each of you been receiving this money without even having to provide any documentation? Theft without a gun is still theft. Recently, council bylaws were revisited, but council members' meeting and attendance was not addressed. Page 16, item 9C of county board requirements states that board members are required to attend a minimum of 3/4 of scheduled meetings to retain his or her seat on a volunteer board. Why does not council have the same requirements for their own? I would hope that you guys would look very hard at your past performance, because you will be judged in the next 13 months, and probably all of you will be removed, which you certainly deserve to be.
Thank you.
Ms. Carol Turner, on the subject of council meeting attendance.
Thank you, council. I had not intended to speak tonight because I hadn't seen the Herald Independent and Mr. Trapp's assertion that we're all satisfied with what he does. According to the November 8th Herald Independent, Mr. Trapp polled his constituency, and we have no problem with his absences. I am one of his newly redistricted constituents. Maybe he doesn't know that I exist. But believe me, I have an enormous problem with his absences because I have no representation on this council. For all practical purposes, my hands were tied for redistricting, and now my hands are tied until elections to remedy the arrogance of this elected official. I know Mr. Trapp cannot just be dismissed from council, but surely any compensation due him can be withheld if he does not perform his duties as a matter of public trust. To my recollection, Mr. Trapp has only attended the meeting where he either made or seconded the motion to approve the expenditure of taxpayer money, the $15,000 for 1 acre of land in his district. That will always be a bad decision to me. I implore council to please address this situation.
Ms. Selwyn Turner, on the subject of attendance guidelines and gas mileage.
It is urgent that changes in the attendance requirements for all county council members should be made immediately in council bylaws, especially since Michael Trapp, who is in his 3rd term from District 3, said that he sent a letter to his constituents and that they approve of his missing these county council meetings in order for him to attend classes at Columbia College on Monday and Wednesday nights. Of 60 of his constituents polled in District 3 by the Herald Independent, not one has received a letter that he said he sent them about attendance. He was elected to serve on council to represent the people. Instead, he is off attending college with our money, our taxpayers' money, people. He didn't even have the courtesy to choose a less expensive college, such as a state college, but instead chose a very expensive private college. I know, because my parents raked and scraped and worked their fingers to the bone to pay my expensive tuition to Columbia College. The attendance laws need to be changed now. Taxpayers in the audience, these are our leaders. They're making vital decisions about the future of our county, but apparently are indiscriminately throwing our money away like this, college tuition for the members of council, and making foolish monetary decisions at every turn. I think you will agree that they have never made the good decisions, but I do think they are overly concerned about what they can personally get out of it. Council members are paid far too much for far too little. I hope you agree. They need to lower our taxes. They need to attract industry and jobs for our needy people. Also, I would like to ask whether council members are reimbursed for driving to these meetings. If you or I worked at a place of employment, would we be paid to drive there? I think not, and neither should they.
To Mr. Jimmy Ray Delvis, there was some misnumbering, I'm sorry, renumbering, and I overlooked your name. Mr. Jimmy Ray Delvis, you can come now to speak on the millage.
On May 13th, 2013, Fairfield County stipulated the millage rate
Our resolution would be 191.7 less a 0.3 error to make it 191.4, and taxes of $22,780,152 would be required for the budget for the fiscal year 2013-2014. The budget must include all revenue sources, and council must provide for the levy of taxes according to the South Carolina State Constitution and legal requirements for county budgets. Following the state constitution, this is what the taxpayers should have to pay. The budget for 2013-2014, $22,780,152, less VC Summer Nuclear Plant, $10,500,000. Less fines, fees, and other taxes not collected through the millage rate of $3 million. Amount needed to set the millage would be $9,280,152. That amount divided by the mill value of $127,427 would make the millage be 72.84 is what you'd need in order to run this county for the budget. Our millage rate should be 72.84, not 190.4. The county will actually receive more than $10,500,000 in VC Summer, and already receives more than $3 million for fees, fines, and other taxes. These amounts are not included in the budget. Where is the council and administrator going to spend nearly $14 million over and out of the budget? 72.94 does not include the reduction for lost fund, the 1-cent sales tax.
On the subject of
I would
control
remind you that this is not the arena for clapping and that kind of stuff.
It's an arena.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, and I'm sure we got some TV people that are going to be joining in when this is shown on cable TV. But I'm here this evening to clarify the chair and the vice chair's distortion of the facts concerning the waste flow bill. Since I'm mainly addressing my remarks to the audience, I for sure want the council to listen closely. Those of you that were here 2 weeks ago probably remember that the chair went off on approximately a 16-minute misrepresentation and distortion of the facts of this bill. I only had 3 minutes to state my opinion. Also, the vice chair and at least one other member of the council had something to say also. It seems odd that this council, and especially the chair, are so adamantly opposed to this bill, since we don't have an issue in this. We don't have a landfill in this county, so why the opposition? Maybe it is something personal against our senator, or the fact that this bill could strip some power from the council. The chair tried to sensationalize this issue by implying that this bill would open up this county to a landfill being opened here. This isn't so. The bill allows for the counties to continue to zone, and this county already has zoning in place that doesn't allow for this landfill in this county. I passed out a copy of section 44-55-1210. If those of you that have that would look at number 2 and B, shows that the counties continue to zone. It is interesting how the chair has remarked about how ugly and how smelly landfills are. I wonder if he forgot that some of that waste at one or more landfills in another county actually came from Fairfield County, as most all of our waste goes out of this county. We don't seem to mind sending our waste to another county. Have you ever heard of NIMBA? It stands for Not in My Backyard. And let me make it clear that I'm not in favor of a landfill in my backyard either, but we better not say too much, or either nearby county might refuse our waste, then where we would be. At the last meeting also, the chair mentioned some 80% of those polled were against this bill. I wish I had a copy of those questions that were asked during this poll.
to see what they were, so we know that the outcome was probably strewed that way. The defeat of this bill is being pushed by the Association of Counties, of which Fairfield is a member. We pay in excess of $12,000 in dues to this union. Now I understand that a TV ad is being shown urging opposition to this bill. I wonder if Fairfield is going to have to chip in additional monies to pay for it. Finally, I would like to mention also that Chester County refused to go along with the resolution proposed by the union and passed by this council.
Thank you. Ms. Carrie Matthews on the subject of Mr. Trapp.
Good evening, council members and ladies and gentlemen. This is not the first time that I have come before council and mentioned my distress that my representative Michael Trapp has not been attending meetings. I was very surprised to read in an article in the paper that Mr. Trapp had claimed that people were coming before council and complaining about his not attending meetings, but they were not members of his district. I think that if he had bothered to show up at a meeting, he would know that I had been speaking about this issue and that I certainly am a member of his district. I find it unfortunate that he is unwilling to listen to people who are from his district, who are stating opinions. If they don't gel with what he wants to hear, he's going to ignore them and pretend like it's not happening. I was also unhappy to hear about his supposed sending out letters. I have talked to several people that I know in my district, and none of us have seen this letter. The major issue is that we feel so strongly that people who are on the council ought to be attending the meetings and they ought to be taking part in discussions that are going on as representatives of their district. If we are going to have districting in this county, which we do have, then we need to have representatives of those districts listening to their constituents and coming to the meetings and representing the constituents. Although since the last time Mr. Trapp showed up, the only thing that he did was to vote to spend money that I think should not have been spent in his district. I'm not all that unhappy that he is absent, but I still think it's unfortunate for the county that this is an absent seat. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Tommy Smith is the last person to sign, and he would like to speak on the subject of Mr. Trapp.
Good evening, council, ladies and gentlemen. I just reiterate on what they had in the News and Herald I read about. It shouldn't matter what district he's in. He's not going to respond to the criticism to that. But I do think that he's getting paid to serve this, and this is what he was elected to do, and he should serve his district as well, and they would like to see him here. But he's getting my money and everybody else's money up here, and he should attend the meetings. And if the school is conflicting with his interests, he needs to be dismissed from council. Our money is going to waste for that. If he can't attend, I don't see how he can stand in meetings with y'all and discuss matters what need to be voted on. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
We're now down to item 7, public hearing. We're now down to section 8, ordinance, resolutions, and orders. Third and final reading to number 622. Do I have a motion? Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. Have one nay. Mr. Musher.
Mr. Chairman, can I comment one moment?
Yes, sir.
The reason why I'm voting nay on this, and I will continue to vote nay, when something comes before council, I've heard that when issues come up, there's been 7 votes, 7 votes, 7 votes. I sit on this council, and Mr. Brown brings up something for business. I trust him because I think he knows eminently more about business in some areas than I do, and other councilmen. Mr. Perry probably know more about finance. And when I read this and I don't understand all the little minute things that are in here, I need it explained to me, because I've heard 7 votes, 7 votes, 7 votes. When I go back and look at those 7 votes, it was not clear to me what I was voting on. It seemed like it was a hidden agenda insofar as I'm concerned. But if folks said it was there, you voted for it and you saw it. I did not see what they saw, at least I didn't. So until all these things in lieu of a fee, how much is taxes, what kind of tax breaks are we giving these companies, what are they giving back to us? And year after year, however it is, we're giving these companies all these breaks or tax breaks. I just need to understand specifically what are we giving and what are we getting in return.
Okay.
All right.
Mr. Pope, did we not have a representative from the law firm that's handling this at the last meeting?
Yeah, we did this at
Hey, counsel, let me just, okay, just let me make this absolutely clear. Anytime a motion comes to this floor, it is inherent that everybody understand what they're voting for. And Mr. Masseria, if you don't understand what we're voting for, from now on in, just say you don't understand, and we'll find a person that knows or can answer your questions. I mean, that's as good as I can do.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I will bring it to our administrator's attention, but next time we get an agenda, if something's not on there, and I need to understand that. Before we have a council meeting, all the legal ramifications and whatnot, I certainly will ask for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We're now down to ordinance 623. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign.
Nay.
We have 1 day, Mr. Masseria. On section 9, you see board and commission minutes that was sent to you. We don't have any board and commission appointments at this time. We are now down to number 11, County Council Expense Reimbursement Policy. Do I have a motion? Second. Any discussion? Mr. Pope, would you read that item for us, please?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just to reiterate, we had made this recommendation several weeks back. We also had a work session on this item. And just to kind of recap the major items of the Fairfield County expense reimbursement policy. Fairfield County council members will be reimbursed for certain expenses associated with the duties of your office. The following guidelines will apply. 1, Fairfield County will not be responsible for purchasing or maintaining equipment. The council member will be reimbursed directly for expenses that he or she has incurred. A claim for the payment form should be submitted at the end of each month to the county administrator's office. 4, receipts, invoice statements, and mileage logs must accompany the claim for payment form, or the claim will be returned and payment delayed until all items are complete. 5, 1 monthly check will be issued for each council member from accounts payable department. The checks will be issued by the 15th of the following month or 10 days after the documentation is submitted, whichever is greater. Expenses submitted 90 days or greater after an incurrence are no longer eligible for reimbursement. The following table, and this is the general categories of what we have or what is allowed under the monthly reimbursement. 1 is communications. This includes internet connectivity and smartphone, and these are all up to $175, and we explained this at the work session. Folks who live in the municipal area, I call it, who have True Vista, there's generally a different rate with those folks who have that versus people who are out in the rural area. So we try to blend those things and have an up to amount, because everyone's documentation will not be the same amount, but it will be up to that amount. So some people will be a lot lower, some folks may be up to that amount. The business miles and the personal automobile, we're using the IRS recommended guidelines as far as mileage is concerned, and that's 56 cents per mile, log mile on the log that has all of the information on the documentation. And then lastly, up to $75 per month for office supplies, and that is defined as ink, paper, envelopes, stationery, constituent non-political postage, or other office supplies, and each of these are actually up to amounts. So it does not mean that that amount of money will be spent each month, but it's up to that amount with the proper documentation based on the definition of what's there.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed by the same sign. We have a unanimous decision, Ms. Brown. We don't have any new business. County Administrator report, Mr. Pope.
Mr. Chairman, we have Ms. Phyllis Watkins who's coming up, who's going to do our county's spotlight, but while she's coming up, I would just like to request of council, and I omitted one item of information requested of the council in the county administrator's report, and this deals with our Fairfield County courthouse temporary relocation. I need to ask to provide some information to council on this item after she finishes, if that's okay. Ms. Watkins.
Good evening, Councilman, Mr. Pope, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phyllis Watkins, and I am the Director of Emergency Management / 911. And I appreciate the opportunity tonight to come and spotlight 911. We are behind the scene. We are considered the first responders, but we're never there, but we are always the first one on the scene. So sometimes we're not recognized because everyone calls and they want the fire department, the fire and EMS and the law enforcement. But we're the ones that receive all the information to make sure that what you get who you need when you need them, and that when we dispatch our deputies and EMS and fire to your residence or to a scene, that they are safe as well. So we're glad to be here this afternoon or this evening to spotlight. And our mission for Fairfield County 911 is to serve as the critical vital link between the citizens of Fairfield County and the public safety agencies that serve them. That's our primary responsibility while we're here, to serve you. We're looking out for Fairfield County. We want to make sure that you get everything you need in a timely and response and accurate time span. Our operation hours, we're 24/7, 365 days. We operate on 12-hour shifts for dispatchers. We have a staffing of 16. That includes 3 administrative positions and 13 dispatchers. And our experience ranges from 2 months to 23 years of a continuous service. We have turnovers. When you come into a 24-hour facilities, swing shifts, working on holidays, working on your birthdays, working on the weekend, it's sometimes hard to keep people. You got to be dedicated. It's another thing to just to come and work. We really are working people. The phone is constantly ringing. Someone's always wanting a service. So even though those are things that we may desire, we're not always going to get what we want as far as job performance is concerned. So therefore we have numerous turnovers, but nevertheless, those that have come, they are dedicated. They put in the hard work to serve Fairfield County citizens. We have a shift of 4, which includes 3 dispatchers per shift, and that includes 1 supervisor per shift. So you ever call into 911, you're not happy with what you got or the service that you're getting, just ask for a supervisor. They're on shift. They are equipped, able, and professional enough to take care and handle whatever issues you may have. This is a picture of our workstation. We have 4 monitors. If you go to the next slide. The first monitor is our Vesta Palace E911 phone system. Everything that we have in the center is computerized, and that's the phone system. We operate off 8 911 trunks and 4 administrative lines. So we have 12 lines that we answer and 3 dispatchers. That's the computer aid dispatch. We call that the CAD system. That's where your information is logged into the system. This is the screen that we use to to dispatch. We put in fire calls, EMS calls, law enforcement calls. This is the system to my right, to the right of the screen. If you can barely see, but there are a list of icons. There are all the available units that are in Fairfield County. That includes all the fire units, all the EMS, all the law enforcement units. And that dispatch, that screen are the ones that are assigned, that are active, that are ready to receive and go to calls at this appointed time. That's our CAD mapping. When a 911 call comes in, it plots to the map. If you have a landline, it plots. It'll plot right to your home address. If you have a cell phone, we're talking a whole different aspects of things. A cell phone is not tied to your physical address. A landline phone is tied to your physical address. What we're discovering as we go on, as time goes by, that more people are getting rid of landline phones because of expenses. So they choose to use the cell phone. You can take it wherever you want to go. But when you dial 911, when you call in on a cell phone, all we see is that cell phone tower address. We're not going to see your physical address. I encourage people, if you can keep your landline phones, keep your landline phones. If you live at 350 Columbia Road on a landline, when it comes in, it's going to tell us you at 350 Columbia Road. If you dial 911 on your cell phone, if you come in off 950 9th Street, it's one of our cell towers, that's what it's going to tell us, that cell tower. And it may plot within a certain perimeter of where you may be with, but it will not give us an exact physical address. So if you can't say anything when you dial 911 on your cell phone, we got problems. We're going to try as much as we can. We have a feature on our phone system that's called rebidding. And if you keep the line open, but that's based on your type of cell phone as well, with the GPS service. It's all about the GPS on your cell phone. We'll keep rebidding, trying to get a lad in line. But sometimes that's just not how it works. This is our radio console. So we got the phones, we do the CAD, we look at the mapping, and then after that we dispatch. And like I say, everything is computerized. Our phone, we dispatch to the Sheriff Department, Winsboro PD, EMS, Fire, Rescue, Highway Patrol, you name it, if it's out there, we got contact with them. We have mutual aid channels where we can talk to every other agency in South Carolina. This is our stats for 2011 from year to date. And this is the call volume that has come in. I have an administrative position that tallies call volume, that keeps the stats. Our inbound calls for 2011 was 64,999 calls. Of that, 58,942 were landline phones, which are just wireline calls. We had abandons of 1,410, and what abandon calls is if someone calls and hang up. As long as we have a callback number, we'll call you back and say, do you need help? So that's just even though you may not even hear the phone ring on your line, the minute you dial 911, our system recognizes that call. And it's going to ding your phone, even though you may not ever hear it ring. If you ever accidentally dial 911, stay on the line. Because if you don't, and if you don't answer when we call you back, we're going to send law enforcement. Our wireless calls that came in were 4,352, and abandoned wireless calls came back to 295. In 2012, we had 67,000. We're on the increase. We may be a small county, but things are happening in a small county. And the call volume is going up. Our landline was over 50,000. Our abandoned calls went down on landline, but notice how our wireless calls have increased considerably in a year. And in abandoned, because of wireless calls, the abandoned calls have begun to go up. In 2013, we have 54, and with the year to date, at this point in time, we have received already 54,000 calls into our 911 center. So we still got 6 or 7 weeks left to go. Next. Our call for service, which is report that we received from the CAD system. As of 2011, we issued call for service for 11,685 calls. Of those, 3834 was EMS, Fire 776, Sheriff 7,197. And as you see in 2012, it went down some, And we're still at this time year-to-date in 2013, and we're already at 95, 92 of call for service total. So our challenges. As a 911, our challenges is that the citizens of Fairfield County properly displaying and are posting their 911 address. If you don't have that address, we're not going to be able to locate you. If you dial 911 and you can't talk, we don't know where you are if you don't identify your resident. There are many people that have, the mail is more important. So you put your number on your mailbox, but that doesn't help any responders that's coming. If your mailbox is across the street, it doesn't help us. If you're going to put it on your mailbox, you need to put your mailbox at your driveway. If your mailbox must be across the street because of the mail carrier, then you must identify your driveway. If your house is 50 feet or less from the road, you can put 3-inch numbers on your home. But if it's 50 feet or more, you must identify your driveway, and it must be, those numbers must be 3 inches high and visible from both sides whether you're coming of the road. Whichever way you come, it must be visible. Knowing when to call 911. We get calls from 911, they need a phone number, they want information, it's such and such in, and what we're planning to do, and I've been working on, is putting out a brochure for the citizens of Fairfield County when to call 911. Ascertaining information. That's a hard thing when people are upset, and we know that. But we ask, the dispatcher will constantly come at you with the same question, trying to calm you down to get the information that they need. Without the information, we can't send you the help that you need. Because we don't want to put, not only that, we don't want to put our law enforcement officers and our EMS responders and our fire responders in risk as well. But we want to make sure that you get what you need. So it's important that when you call 911, when the dispatcher asks you a question repeatedly, all she's trying to do or he's trying to do is to get you to calm down so they can properly understand what you're saying. 911 calls from cell phones. You got to give us the information. We can't depend on because you know that your phone bill comes to such an address, you can't depend on that as the information that we're receiving from 911. And the cell phone disposal. When we get a new phone, the first thing we do is hand them over to our children and say, you can play with it. Baby 3 years old, all it takes is one button. We encourage you not to program 911 on a one-button feature on your cell phone. Why? Because whenever someone calls the 911 on a disposable phone, they tied up a 911 trunk. We've got children dialing 911 because mom and daddy no longer uses the phone and have given the children the phone to play with. As long as that phone has a charge, that child can dial 911. That's one feature that does not leave even if you don't have any minutes left on your phone. So once that child dials 911, they tie up a 911 trunk. So when there's actually an emergency, there's one trunk that nobody's getting through on. So we're encouraging everyone, if you have a cell phone that you no longer want to use, take out the battery. If you want to give it to your children to play with, take out the battery. Because it is creating a problem in the 911 center, and there's a liability issue there. Because we've got children tying up our lines, babies calling us, because they get a voice on the other end and they don't want to hang up the phone. That's where we are. So where are we headed? The future of 911. We've gotten to the point now where we can, if you get a 911 call from the cell phone, we can pinpoint to a certain area where you may be calling from. But in next generation, what we call now is next gen 911, we're going to have the ability to send and receive text messages, images, data, and video. That's where we're going. And we're only a year or two out from that capability. So there's going to be more things that are going to be going on in the 911 center that may be required additional staffing for the time that we're going to have to put in. Because these things, text messages and images and data and videos, are a lot more than just someone calling and talking to you on the cell phone. And even though it's going to come down that we're going to encourage you to still dial 911, when someone gets that capability, because everybody's technology savvy, they're going to want to use it. So we know that now next gen 911 is going to create some serious educational throughout the public. So for the year of 2013 and the 2014, which we're in now, our annual budget is approximately $158,000. For the first quarter for the 911, our expenditures has been over $50,000. But because of the generosity of the state, we have a cost recovery program that recovers over 70% of our expenditures. We have, for this quarter, for last quarter, have received $36,656 of our $50,000 expenditures. Thank you.
Pretty good. Thank you, Ms. Watkins. I give you this water.
See where that is in the budget.
Mr. Pope? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only other item that I have under my report, Mr. Chairman, what I wanted to bring to council's attention is a request from myself and staff. And I'd like to request that the chair and council establish a 3-member ad hoc committee to review and discuss staff recommendations regarding the Fairfield County Courthouse temporary relocation. This council, sometime back months ago, had undertaken looking at renovation at the courthouse, some major structural issues, HVAC issues that we have at the courthouse, and of course, in order for those things to take place, there would need to be a relocation of employees from that location. And we would like to have a committee to review and discuss items with the staff before that item comes to the full council. So that way we can hopefully do all of the lead work we need to do, provide all of the information, and then bring our final recommendations to the full council.
Do I have a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? Hearing none.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. 3 members of the council. Are you recommending who those members should be, or the council want to recommend it? If it's the chairman, you make those recommendations on something like that. I think even on the committee, when we had committees, you assigned the committees, didn't you?
Yeah, but I think what we're going to do this time on the ad hoc committee is discuss it with council and let's come up with a plan. Okay? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. That's unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That completes my report.
Clerk of Council's report.
I don't have a report this evening.
County Council time.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a sincere apology to the council and to the audience. I read that tape and I went back and I looked. It was the second reading of that Washington project. With my understanding, there was a lot of conflict going on with that project at that particular time. It was the second reading, and I thought I voted for it, but if I didn't, by the time it came up to the third reading, I certainly supported it. But I think all the little kinks and stuff that was involved with their organizing that project seemed to have been worked out. And I had thought I said I voted for it, but clearly on that tape I said nay, and I apologize to the newspaper, because the newspaper also printed that I said nay. Again, it was a second reading. The third reading is coming. I think all the problems that I saw at that particular time have been eliminated, and third reading I certainly would support it. So I apologize for that.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Mr. Brown.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to thank Veterans Affairs and Fairfield Primary School for putting together a very nice Veterans Affairs program this morning up at the school. A lot of good entertainment coming from third graders, fourth graders, and fifth graders. And it was very solemn Veterans Affairs program. And I just want to thank them.
Mr. Marshall.
I also like to apologize to the veterans and everyone. I wasn't able to make it this morning, and I think I've been on council now about 14 years. I don't think I missed any. I might have missed one, and I certainly couldn't get there this morning, but my mind and heart was certainly with them.
Well, it was like Mr. Brown said, it was a moving experience to see those children doing what they're doing and to actually honor the the veterans that have given so much. And the good part is that the kids understand what they're talking about and the concept of it, and it was really good. It was a good program. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, I think the one thing that stood out for me, and we've been putting this on for years, was they all had to take a personal initiative to be a part of this program today. Whether it was writing notes, writing letters, singing, but they had to spend some time to be a part of this program. I think in the past the kids would come around and they would sing, which they did a great job of, but today the kids actually had to write to the veterans. And I know they talked about the white table for the single veteran, and I thought that was very meaningful. I had not seen that before, but it was a great program they put on at the elementary school this morning, so really enjoyed it.
Ms. Robinson.
I was going to say what a great program they had this morning. Those children never cease to amaze you what they can do. And we actually had some vets who came, and that was meaningful as well. Also, almost all of the children in that school are going to address cards and send those out to veterans on foreign shores. I heard this week that I don't think we have any World War I veterans that are still living. If so, they're well up into their hundreds. And this is also the year that is 50 years that they are recognizing the Korean War. And of the vets who stood tonight, do we have any who served in the Korean War? Okay, most of them are to the point that we're now to Vietnam and the present day wars. It's really sad, but we have very few World War II veterans left now, because they're all in their late 80s, 90s, etc. And so it's, you know, those are the people who fought for the rights that we have today, and we thank them. In answer to one of the comments tonight that was made by Mr. Douglas, I can't tell you exactly what our budget is this year. I know it's a little over $30 million, and we're only having to collect $22 million. And the reason we're only having to collect $22 million is because we get funds from the state, from the legislature, and we have to fight for that money every year, because that's a likely fund that they can use to go in and do some of their things they would like to do, education, other ideas, to pick up money, to fund some of the ideas that they have down there. But we have to go and fight for those funds every year, and all of that's in the Constitution. And I can't tell you how many years it's been since we've actually received the full funding from those. But we usually get in the neighborhood of $800,000 to $1 million out of that fund. We also get money in from tourism taxes, which is a pretty good sized chunk that helps fund a lot of things that's in the budget. We get monies from recycling, and that helps offset the budget, and that's why it's most important that everyone try to recycle, because number one, it brings money back in, it takes waste out of the garbage stream that's filling up Screaming Eagle. And the faster we fill that Screaming Eagle up, the sooner we're going to have to address what we're doing with the garbage in Fairfield County. But there are just many other programs that, and I don't know all of them right now without looking at the budget. But those are the monies that are coming in that has offset what we have less what we need to collect. And yes, in that $22+ million is all of the funds that the county receives from VC Summer, just like it's received from you. So I just wanted to make that clarification tonight of why we reduce it from $30+ million to $22 million. So that's the total amount, because we are fortunate to have funds coming in from other sources to offset that so that we don't have to collect the full amount. Thank you.
Can I ask you a question? Any other council comments? There is just one comment that I would like to make, and it has to do with the waste flow bill. We were told from this microphone right here that we have ordinances that says we cannot have a landfill in this county. It is against state law. You can't ban anything from your county. It has to be a location, whether it's any, I mean, people talk about hog farms. This county has to have a place. If somebody wanted to put a hog farm in Fairfield County, there's got to be a place that one can be put. We cannot make ordinances that keep waste streams out of Fairfield County. You can limit them to the circles that DHEC says that's the number that can come into your county. But this county, no matter what you believe or what you say, this county cannot say we're not going to have landfills. It's just not possible. State law says you can't do it, and we can't supersede that. So I just wanted to make that very clear to you. That's the reason we've taken the plight that we have. And yeah, you are right. Chester and all the other counties that's in this mid-region are truly fighting this. And not in my backyard. I don't want to see a landfill in anybody's backyard. But the fact of it is, let this pass legislation, and you'll see them coming. You'll certainly see them coming.
Motion to go into executive session to discuss legal matter and economic development matter.
Second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Welcome back. I'm Terry Vickers with the Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and we welcome you to this edition of Chamber Chat. I am excited to have as my guest today Mr. J.R. Green. Mr. Green is superintendent of the Fairfield County School District, and it feels like he has been here forever as much as he has accomplished, and the turnaround that has taken place since he has arrived. But we just discussed the fact he's in his second year. Goodness gracious. And there have been so many accomplishments, and this is the first time that you have been here on Chamber Chat. And so what I'm